Hey guys, so what I've got here is a standard viscous coupling from the W5M33 four-wheel drive gearbox. This is out of my Lancer GSR. This is an Adelia Magic coupling, and this evening I'm going to pull it apart and see what's inside. Basically because there's only really one old forum thread with a few photos and not a lot of information on what they do or how they work. So I will undo all these, take off the top cover, and we'll see what's underneath. Okay, and we're back. So I ended up pulling it apart and cleaning everything because it was pretty disgusting, covered in gearbox slime and gunk. So now I can handle it, at least. This looks like kind of like a clutch type diff, I guess. But I think I've figured out how it works. So basically this is the outer body, this is the cover. On the inside of the cover there are a set of tracks machined in, and in these tracks there are ball bearings. And at first I thought that these tracks must be have a change in depth, so when you stomp on the accelerator pedal the ball bearing gets ramped up into the surface and locks, but it doesn't function like that. It's actually using this component here, which has two raceways for the ball bearings. You can see the marks where they lock up here. This component sits on top like this, and you can see that's I don't have a force to lock it. So what's actually happening is when you accelerate, this ball bearing is going to follow in the track that's machined here, and it's actually going to move outwards. So it's changing its radial, its distance from the center. Now, if this surface was flat, say it went on like this, it would make nothing would happen. It would make no difference. But because the surface that the ball bearing runs on, come on, focus. It's actually a V. There we go, a V-shaped groove. So when the ball bearings at, say, rest, it's all the way inboard, then I assume it sits in the lowest part of this track. When the ball bearing gets shifted outboard by acceleration difference in torque, it's getting ramped up this track, and that's obviously going to push this piece away. It's going to push it away from the ball bearing. So when you accelerate, this will be exaggerated. Say you accelerate, this plate, the ball bearing ramps outwards, and it will push this plate up, and that's your actuation mechanism. So when you lift off, it unlocks and the ball bearing comes back down that ramp surface back to its resting position. So it's sort of like the clutch in an electric drill, I think, from what I've seen before. So anyway, so this surface here sits on there. There's after that, I'm going to take that ball bearing out so I don't lose it. Actually, for spacing, we'll keep it in there. There's a washer piece, a shim, a very large Belleville washer, which actually sits facing that way. And then on top of that, we have this disc here, which is going to engage with those splines. So this disc is keyed to the cover, and then facing that disc we have this one, and then next we have this cover, which goes, it has just a shim piece as well, sits on there, and then this one is going to interface with this clutch disc like that. So two halves of the assembly, I guess. This is your viscous coupling. This is replacing the viscous coupling, so it's attempting to prevent a difference in slippage between the front and rear axles. So basically you could say this is your front drive and this is your rear drive. It might be the other way around, I don't know off the top of my head. But basically that's it on there. And then the main body just has a needle roller bearing which runs on there like that. This is bolted to the cover but doesn't interface with the rest of this assembly at all. So this only interfaces with the cover. And that's basically it. So I guess I'm trying to think whether this would be any good on a road car. Assuming it only locks when you accelerate, and assuming it, see, I don't know how much it'll lock. Those ball bearings you would assume will centrifuge out and press the clutch plate here upwards, which will then obviously hit this one, and then the friction, just like a typical mechanical limited slip diff, will lock the front and rear outputs together. How much they lock, I guess, depends on your oil, LSD additives, the ball bearings. If you were to change the number of ball bearings, you could change the force that's acting on this assembly. If there's less ball bearings pushing on it, it's not going to lock as effectively. As standard configuration, as I've received this, it's got ball bearings in all of the slots. I have no idea what effect removing ball bearings would have. Whether running half would give you half locking, I have no idea. So I'm not going to mess with it. I don't even know if I'm going to fit it to the car yet. I mean, it's not super difficult to remove and change out with the gearbox in the car, but yeah, I don't know. It might cause a bloody leak if the flanges don't hold their seal. So anyway, we'll see how we go. Put this back together and wrap it back up until I'm ready to use it, I guess. At the moment, the car's in pieces. CV boots, bloody gearbox oil leak, steering rack. The steering rack itself is the shape of a banana, so that's priority at the moment, but I do have to seal the gearbox up as well. Right, back to work. Thanks.